Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
Today's episode is our Winter 2025 Anime Season Reviews, Part 3 of 3. This will be it. If we don't cover your anime in this list, we didn't like it or we dropped it. Or we just didn't have enough time. We have for this episode Solo Leveling Season 2, Tying the Knot with the Amagami Sister, I May Be a Guild Receptionist, Dragon Ball Daima, Ameku MD, Doctor Detective, The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World, Honey Lemon Soda, Medalist, Tasokare Hotel, Headhunted to Another World. Wait, yeah, you did that one, right? Okay. I'm like, wait, I didn't finish that one. Wait, Chris. And Sakamoto Days, and that will be it. You didn't watch Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, did you?
No, I didn't get to it.
I got like 6 episodes in and just never got back to it, unfortunately. And I didn't finish My Happy Marriage. That was like delayed at some point, and I never got back to watching it. So I'll eventually watch it because we got another season coming for that, and I enjoy it. Anyhow, that's it. That's all we're gonna cover, and that's it. That's it for winter. We'll go right into spring with first impressions of that. Which reminds me, big announcement. It's not a good announcement. It's bad news. Some pretty bad news. Spotify, which is our current host, has went the way of YouTube, and now they are doing copyright sniffing. And so every single one of our podcast episode that had an OP or an ED, and yes, all the music episodes have been nuked. They just nuked them all. So, one, that means it's going to be a while before I have any time to scrub the music out of them and repost the episodes. So there's going to be a lot of episodes missing. It's like over 100. There's a lot of episodes missing from our podcast feed. So if there's a review or something that you're going back to find, it's not going to be there for a while. I'm going to be truthful. I don't know when I can get them back up. It's just, that's going to take way too much time for me to go back. I do have an archive of all the podcasts, and I believe most of them, they have just the audio separate from the music. If that's the case, those should be easy to put back up, but there's a good chance that all of them are going to need to be manually cut and done in a way that's going to work, because some of them have bleed ends, which means that I have the opening, and then at some point the song comes down a little bit, and then we start talking. That makes those more difficult. So it's all for me to say I don't know when or even if I will get the old podcast episodes up. Because there's the other problem, is it's going to take a bunch of time that doesn't really get much out of it. I don't mean to sound mean, but it's like, who goes back and listens to really old podcast episodes? Not many people. It's not like when I look at my feed thing there, it shows like 100 people. Like, nobody is watching the old stuff, or listening to the old stuff. So there's a good chance that I might not ever do them. Unless at some point I just get an itch and I just have somebody do it for me. Like, pay somebody to do it. It's just not going to happen.
Or AI gets to the point where they can do it.
Yeah, I could just tell an AI, take all the music out of all these and put them in the actual, and then log into my Spotify account and place them into the music slot for these particular episodes, and it knows how to do that. It's going to be very difficult.
AI agents are coming.
But yeah, all that said, probably it's going to be a while. If anything, it may not happen getting those back up. But the other big problem, and this is more to now, that most people that are listening to us now and don't care about the old stuff is going to matter to them. Music episodes are probably done. There's probably a good chance that we're never going to do another music podcast episode. I have considered the idea of putting them on Patreon as like a Patreon thing that people can get. The problem with the Patreon thing is, one, it's gated. It's gated that people have to get through. But additionally, in order to post them on Spotify, you have to give them a portion of what you're earning. So that's then something else that is taking out of what people are wanting to give to us. So it's that whole issue there where those that are Patreon supporters, I kind of want them to be okay with the idea that part of what they expect is going to us is going to Spotify or Patreon. So
have you tried contacting Spotify yet? Because I thought that they were boasting that you could do that stuff.
What would be contacting them for? They're bending to the labels. Yeah. They're not going to care whether I have to say. Well, literally, them saying you have copyrighted stuff, remove it, or tell us that you have a license is their system's way of saying they told us to get rid of this stuff, otherwise we get in trouble.
It was something that they used to advertise a long time ago. If I remember right, I had mentioned it to you a long time ago that we may want to look into this so that we can do the music podcast through this, because they were basically you would do a lead in and then play the song. And so you can
manually enter in selected music, yes. The problem is I don't think that's really the case for everything. Because like I said, you literally have to tell them that you have a legal license to use it now. Anyways, I didn't want to drag down the entire review podcast here. I'm just letting people know. Again, we'll make a decision in the future as to what we're going to do. So that's it. Let's get into reviews. Let's get into happy stuff. Like Soul Leveling. Let's get into Soul Leveling. Talk about Soul Leveling as our first one. Soul Leveling. Where is my Soul Leveling in here? There it is. Are Dake Level Up na Ken Season 2 Arise from the Shadows. This was on Crunchyroll. I think it's on Netflix as well. Ran for 12 episodes. Done by A1 Pictures. Source is a web novel. The genres are action, adventure, fantasy. But yeah, this one opens up with Sung. I guess we're in season 2, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, the idea here is this world has gates that open up, and mankind have some people that awaken as hunters, and these hunters have a certain amount of capabilities and powers that they can kill these monsters that are coming out of the gates. Well, actually, they're supposed to go in the gate and destroy the boss in the gate before it opens up, because if they don't kill it fast enough, they will have a, what was it called, a dungeon break, or was it a gate collapse? I forget what it's called.
Dungeon break, I think, is what it is.
I think it was dungeon break, yeah. And then suddenly the monsters will come out and attack people, so they have to kill with the actual boss in the actual gate before that happens. But yeah, we follow like the weakest of the weak, and at some point he's nearly dying, and then he gets a prompt that says, do you want to become a player? He says yes, because he's going to die. And then he's this one rare case of an actual hunter that continues to get stronger, because most people, when they awaken, they have a cap. And he's actually able to level up. And so he's building himself up in order to save his mommy, because she's got this forever sleep disease thing that is apparently caused by mana, and the way that they help preserve them is to hook a machine of mana to him. I still don't get that. But anyways, yeah, season 2, he levels up more. He has his new ability called Arising, which is he's able to essentially whatever he defeats, he's able to turn them into like zombie soldiers. And so these shadow soldiers, he's leveling up as well. And then he goes in the dungeon in order to get the elixir for his mommy. And yeah, we also got to meet S-Rank Sniffer, who's an S-Rank in this area that likes him because he doesn't stink like all the other hunters. And so she really likes him because he doesn't stink like the other hunters. Did I tell you that she likes him because he doesn't stink? So what do you think of... Oh, yeah, they had the Jeju Island raid, which Jeju Island was one of the first cases of like a dungeon break happening. And they've tried to kill all the monsters on the island, but they keep losing like entire teams of hunters. And so they're finally deciding to go back to do it again, because the ants that are from the monsters there are evolving to fly. So he lets them go there and people die. And then eventually he decides to jump over there to help them because S-Rank Sniffer's there.
Yeah.
He's got to save that S-Rank Sniffer.
And we all know that the manhwa version of Saber has to be saved.
Oh, yeah. And also he ditched Essel, the best demon girl.
Right?
Like, what the hell's that, dude? He ditched Essel, the demon girl, who wanted to have a joyous party, by the way. She even said it. She said, joyous party. He ditches her to run off. Well, he was initially ditching her in order to go give his mom the potion. But, yeah, anyways. What are your thoughts on season 2?
I think he's qualifying as a harem ditherer now, isn't he?
No, he's a shonen protagonist. They don't have harems. Shonen protagonists just literally ignore everything that has boobies.
Ah, I see.
It's like, ew, gross. I have to go over here and beat up things. And aura.
Yeah, and he has a little bit of Goku in him too. I'm secretly desiring battle. Yes, I love this. They've done a fantastic job with this particular season. I mean, I think every episode I was pretty much hype. The only thing that, I mean, if I was to critique anything that it ended, that's about it. It was fantastic. I love finally getting basically one of his best Shadow Warriors this season. I can't wait to see the hell that he brings with that. So yeah, I had a blast with this season.
Yeah, I think the biggest tip point for me, because I've said it several times, and I have to say it again for this review because it's for the review podcast. I've said it several times, but I think season 1 was like, it had some cool action and animation, but like, shrug. Just didn't really have my attention at all. Like, it was just, okay, dude's getting OP. He's still getting OP. And he never really had a challenge, I feel like, in the first season. Like, his only challenge I feel in the first season was the initial scenario, which was cool because it was like this whole like puzzle, and he was trying to help people get through the puzzle. But after that, like, most all of them, like, he just screams a bunch and eventually kills it. Even with Ignis, it was like, it was just Igris. Even with Igris, it was like literally just, scream, and he kills him at the end. Like, he was getting beat up, but he just screams in the end and kills him. I never feel like he had a challenge in the first season. Now, what he gets in the first season is the Rise thing. And that wasn't really a big hook for me. It was like, okay, this is cool. He can now have like a shadow army. That's pretty cool. And it's getting huge at this point. We're getting to that point where it's going to be like My Isekai Life. Was that what it's called? The one that had like all the digital screens, and he'd bring them up and he'd send his slimes out and stuff like that. He's getting to that point where now he's just chilling over somewhere and he's just listening to see what's going on.
Just standing there looking cool while everybody else does the battle.
Or farming. But yeah, getting into season 2, what actually grabbed me in season 2 was, again, more crazy cool action, great animation, great stuff. Gotcha. Just want to hear Yuku music. Gotcha. We're good. Check. What got me with season 2 was that I think it was the moment where the monster talked, and I was like, okay, here we go. What's going on now? Because I've always been kind of curious about what's beyond the gate. Is it like a digital world? Is it just something that somebody created? Is it an alternate dimension? Is there leaders there? Because I've always had this theory that he's basically a pawn that was sort of revived or kept alive by some god of the other side, and that he's getting stronger in order to probably defeat one of the other gods on the other side. And so the moment that I had one of them talk, I'm like, okay, what do they have to say? Like, I'm suddenly intrigued. I want to know more. And he had to get into the whole thing, the idea where eventually he's asking questions and suddenly the system glitches. And I'm like, okay, now I'm more intrigued. We're getting more intrigued. And it kind of kept ramping up from that point. And I think ever since that moment that elf dude, whatever, spoke up, like, I've been super interested in the series. Not that I think this show is perfect. I just think that it went from like a 5, like, for the first season's like a 5 for me. Like, it's just really cool looking, but just don't really care about the story or the characters. To where we're going into season 2, and suddenly I'm more intrigued about the world and everything that's going on around them. It suddenly got me hooked. The hooks of the actual stories, they're in me. I still think it's, again, not a perfect series. It's just kind of bumped up to maybe like a 7 or 8 for me. I think it still has a big problem, and that's the characters. I could give a flying rip about anybody. I don't care about Sung. I wasn't even, unfortunately, besides the fact of having sort of a brief moment of feeling almost a personal connection, or at least a relatability there, of having somebody in a critical state like his mother was in. Other than me having sort of a feeling like I almost see a similar scene in my head and my memories when he's sitting in front of his mom, and you get emotional there. But I wasn't really emotional for Sung. I wasn't really emotional in that scene in the hospital. And that's really like a testament to that. I just don't really care about his story. I don't care about Sung. I don't have really an attachment with any of these characters, and I think that's the biggest flaw the writer has. I just have an intrigue about where his story goes, but I don't have an emotional connection to Sung.
Well, if I remember right, even when I did do the review of the manhwa itself, I liked it for its general concept, but I don't think that I had. Even when I think back on when I was actually reading it, I kept going through it, and at the end of every chapter down there, somebody was saying, on to episode 2, on to episode 3, because every chapter they were considering it an episode, and it was like...
I think that's a manhwa thing.
Yeah, that... down there at the bottom, the people who are commenting on the thing.
Well, no, I'm saying I think that's a manhwa thing where they call them episodes. But I know that they even call this season 2, like in the manhwa, or at least maybe unless they change something. I got a kick out of the fact that because I was reading the manhwa alongside the anime so that I could do like skip content kind of things. And at the end of this little segment, it literally says end of season 2. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Did they plan that? Is it actually? How is it coinciding with the actual anime? That's kind of scary. Like he knew how many episodes it would take in order to get to the next season or something.
But no, I don't. I want to say that I'm in this. I was in the same boat as you, where it was like I didn't really much care for that whole setup area. It wasn't until a lot of the background stuff started showing its face that it was like, okay, this is getting a little bit interesting. Of hey, this is actually, because for sure the manhwa is just absolute just action points. Every set piece was full action. I mean, I figured you would like Cha a little bit more, but I mean, in all actuality, she was, yeah, pretty girl that comes through. Maybe there's a little bit of a love interest, but it's not that much. Even Essel and the other girl that
Bug Girl. Bug Girl's very important. I like Bug Girl. I just call her Bug Girl. What's her name? I literally have to say
the sister.
Bora. Yeah, Bora. I call her Bug Girl. She was one of the people that was with that group that had the first Red Gate.
The healer girl.
No, she was the one that actually, she was the mage because she knew where Sung was.
Oh, okay.
She was the one that actually pointed out that she knew that he was there helping.
Yeah, the ones that I was thinking of was the
healer girl's Johei.
Yeah, the healer,
who got an upgrade, I see. That was that little scene where Song was about to get attacked by the bugs, and then suddenly the new Arise comes by and takes him out. And that brief moment where Johei noticed that he was going to get attacked, she's just like this, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm like, dang, she got an upgrade. They wanted to show some physics with her, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah, the only ones that I could think of off the top of my head was the healer, the sister's friend, Cha, and
the sister.
Essel. Huh? You think the sister's in
and
there
the sister.
Too?
I mean, it seems like everybody's shipping the sister. Hey, throw mom in there. I don't know.
But no, I don't think it ever really went for that. It was literally all about him just making it through the entire system and leveling up.
Well, I guess my whole point is like, I have, oddly enough, like if you ask me what characters do I think are well developed in this story so far, I would probably say the most well developed character is probably Bake. I think Bake is easily, of everybody, is the most developed character. I even have more development in Go than I do with Song. Because at least I know with Go, he's like this guy that is really strong, but he's retired. He doesn't have the physical capability to still want to hunt. Well, but he always has a struggle of wanting to get in there and help them and wanting to be a part of it. The thirst of the fight, really. But Bake is like super complex. Like initially, he's just the guy that wants to recruit Song. He wants somebody powerful. Then it gets in the fact that he doesn't want to transform because it's this monstrous form. It gets into how he wants to recruit Sung, but at some point realize that Sung is far beyond him, and he's choosing instead in order to make a bond with Sung in a way that is not recruiting him, but just making a partnership, basically. If he's never going to join us, he's too powerful. He's leveling up. He's getting stronger, unlike any other hunter. So instead, I just need to form a bond with him. And then getting right into the whole thing with him and Bongyo, and that whole idea of the thirst for fight, and where Bongyo does not want to fight, where he's like a rare case of somebody that doesn't have that thirst for fighting. Yeah, like I said, Bake is probably the most complicated character of all.
I thought the arm guy was the one that was probably the most well developed to me, but that I don't know that's going to show yet.
Arm guy,
the guy who's missing an arm, he lost his arm in one of the
Song
raids.
Song was decent in the first season for sure. He's barely here in the second season, but yeah, I liked his character. I did like his character. But yeah, that aside though, besides my only critique, which is literally I could care less who dies. Like that whole scene with the bug coming in there and just one-shotting everybody, which, by the way, plot armor, that nobody in there got their heads knocked off in a split second, like all the Japanese did. Even when in that whole situation in the mama bug room, I don't care. Like I just don't really care. They could all die, and I wouldn't cry. There's a sense of tension there, obviously, and I think the music. Oh my gosh, the music in that scene. When it comes in there and it starts crying because the mom's dead, and I'm like, the music kicks in. I'm like, oh gosh, Sawano, dude. Sawano music comes in, the vocals are in there, and that's what made that scene. It was the music. It was the tension. It was the animation. It was the directing. It wasn't that I cared about the characters. It was just how they presented it. But yeah, besides that frustration there, I'm really intrigued by the the overall plot line. I'm intrigued by the world and the mechanics and all that kind of stuff. I want to know more. Like it's got me thirsting for more. So their ability to kind of turn this whole story around within, again, a flip of the season is amazing. So I don't know if maybe the writer just finally got their groove, or they just finally decided, okay, let's start to kind of dig into stuff, and suddenly it's interesting. Either way, I'm on board. Like I'm sold at this point. I think we got enough for 2 more cores. I think at this point, because I think we're just above 100 chapters. I think there's 200 ?
Sounds about right.
So yeah, I think we have 2 more cores. I don't think they've announced another season. It's gonna have another season. They may have, and I just forgot. But it's not like we're scared they're not gonna keep this. This is literally like printing money for Crunchyroll.
They're eating it up.
I think I recently seen something that this was the highest rated show on Crunchyroll now, which is probably now no longer the case, because I'm pretty sure all the One Piece fans are like, that we can't have that, and they just basically told all their friends, go there and rate it. It's literally like the most rated show. I mean, enough that people want to click farm it. A series is really popular when people are click farming it, with that whole the lowest rated episode. That was such a stupidest thing ever. Stupidest thing ever. Anyways, that's anything else on Solo Leveling? Great animation. It was cool. Fight scenes, all that stuff. Let's go to tying the knot with an Amagami sister. Amagami? I think it's Amagami. Gosh, I don't remember the last time I actually talked about this show on the podcast. It feels like it just came out. You didn't get back to it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tying the knot with the Amagami sister, or Amagami.
I had a much more important show to watch.
Yeah. Amagami-san Shi no Unmusubi. This one was streaming on Crunchyroll for 24 episodes. Done by Studio Drive, based on a manga, comedy, drama, ecchi romance. This one opens up with Uru Kamihate, who is he's wanting to work towards getting college, and he wants to go to a really prestigious college because he wants to become a doctor. That's like his dream. You get a little sense later on that yes, he lost his mother, and he was always kind of told this idea of praying and whatnot, but none of that really did anything. So he's all about the idea of, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. You can't just rely on prayers. But anyways, yes, he wanted to go to the school, and he gets this one shrine. He get an offering to be able to stay at the shrine while he goes to this college. And so he goes to the shrine, and when he gets there, he ends up running into the 3 sisters of this shrine, the Amagami sisters, Asahi, Yuna, and Yai. And yeah, he catches them changing, obviously, because this is an ecchi harem rom-com show. Yeah, he doesn't get slapped, if I remember correctly. He just gets salt thrown on him. Anyways, yes, he comes to find out that the leader of, or the runner of this actual shrine, he has a deal to make here. That in order for him to stay there, and in order for him to, get a good word in for the college that he wants to get into, he's got to marry one of the sisters and take over the shrine. And he's like, hell no, I'm becoming a doctor. I don't need this stuff. I got to work on studying. I need to focus on that. I don't need this. But yeah, he ends up talking him into it. But yeah, he starts to stay at the shrine and starts to meet all the individual girl. You have Asahi, who is the youngest. She's kind of the little sister. She's the gremlin little sister character. Yuna, which is the middle sister. She's more of she works way too much. Like, she's an overworker. Like, she's just always trying to put way too much effort into every single project, to the point where she exhausts herself. And then you have Yai, who is the older sister, who's currently going to college, and she's going to art, I believe. And she is the slob. Like, she is the one that just doesn't pay attention to her surroundings. Her room's a mess, all that kind of stuff. Of course, you have to have a flaw with each of them, right? Asahi has no flaws, though. Asahi, the little sister, has no flaws, other than the fact that she has to hunt and peck. She's a hunt and peck. She's really? Not good with technology. She is not good with technology. I thought I'd never see that look ever again. She does the dinosaur claw thing. Click, click, click. Anyways, so yeah, he's meeting each one of them really quickly. It seems like, of course, they don't want him to be there, so they're treating him pretty wrong-like. It's mostly around Yuna, kind of being diabolical in the idea of, let's make him do all these chores, make him cook, make him clean Yai's room, make him do our laundry. Wait, our underwear's in there. that whole thing. But yes, kind of forcing him to do all this work, and he eventually decides, no, this isn't worth it. I'm cutting back on my studying in order to do all this stuff. I'm just gonna go somewhere else. But eventually they bring him back in, and he starts to work with them. There's some overarching plot lines and the idea of, yes, him trying to get into this college, working on his studies, and then him, of course, trying to find out more about each one of these sisters, what sort of drives them. Asahi's is really good at running. She had her dreams of going to track and whatnot, but then there's the idea of would she want to take over the shrine. Yuna's the one that seems like she wants to be sort of the sacrificial pawn rather than the other ones taking over. She's devoted herself to take it over. She has sort of a more driven desire to take over the shrine and she doesn't like the idea of him having to marry her in order to do that. She feels that a female should be able to take over the shrine by themselves rather than having to have him be a part of it. So she's kind of driven that whole regard. And Yai has her own driving force as well I'll forget her story. He did know her from the past. I remember that whole thing. But yeah, she does like to draw. Yeah, I know that part. There was something else about her, but it mostly gets into how that he knew her back when she was very much so younger. Anyways, that's basically just the whole story there. So
she was the one in the memory?
If it's the memory that I'm thinking of, yes.
Okay.
If it's the memory that I'm thinking of, if what I'm talking about is the one that you're talking about, yes.
Well, it was something that they showed towards the end of the first course, so
it seems like that'd be out there. Yeah. Yeah. Then it gets into some supernatural stuff. They eventually run into a lot of spirits and whatnot that are playing tricks and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of interesting little twist to it. But yeah, my thoughts on the series overall. This is an enjoyable harem show, but at the same time, not a very memorable one. And that, you can obviously tell that because I'm struggling really hard to remember what each of these character stories were. But obviously it was like 2 core seasons, so it's a little bit difficult to kind of recall a lot of this stuff. It's a very not so memorable show. At the same time, I did enjoy it. This is one of those kind of. It seems like from the cover art and from the first episode, it's going to be a bog standard harem show. Guy goes to a shrine of a bunch of shrine maidens, harem shenanigans, ecchi happens. But it's not really that. I think there was a lot more thought put into the relationships and the characters than you typically get for these series. For one thing, Uryu is a solid main character. He's got a driving force. This is what he wants to do. He's got this entire orphanage back home that he's leaving behind, that he's trying to help as well. He's got this driving force. He has a reason for what he's doing. And eventually getting into sort of how he can separate what his own dreams are, but still sort of bring people in to his life. Because this is somebody that feels like I should focus on only this, but at some point having a realization, I also want to have them be a part of my life. It is sort of realizing that you don't have to triage completely. It's not a black or white situation. You can have everything. It's just going to take more effort. I do like what they did with his character. The other thing that I really liked about the show is that I like all the girls. Like technically Asahi is still best girl. Let's be honest. Typically I'll have like just one girl. I'll have one girl that I'll like. I'll have one girl that I just have no care for, and then I'll have another girl where I'm okay with. This is one of those rare cases where I like all of them. They're each individually have their own like nicety about them. Something that's about their character, who they are, and all that kind of stuff. Yai being the big sis type, but she's technically not the big sis type because she's completely unreliable, which was kind of a nice, refreshing thing. Typically, the big sis type character are the ones that's most reliable. She's not. She's a fail girl. She's an absolute fail girl. I did like her character, though. She's just super sweet when she needs to be. There's a lot of goofiness about her, especially when she starts to get to the point where she starts to get a lot more forward. It's a lot of fun. Yuna, I didn't think initially I was going to like her character because she's sort of the tsundere type character that sometimes does not work. And I typically like my tsundere characters. It's just there's a lot of cases where you have a trio.
Come on, she wasn't all that aggressive. She was throwing salt.
That's a nice refreshing thing is that it's not hitting him. It's just throwing salt, which as long as it doesn't get in any open wounds or the eyes, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, I typically with a trio harem show like this, it's usually hit and miss whether I like the tsundere character or not because they typically are the main cover girl. But I liked her character the most because story-wise, I liked her character the most because she is very complicated in the idea of how, again, she overextends herself. She's working way too hard, really trying to prove herself. And that often comes with her
She was the one who was most affected by her mom, wasn't she?
I mean, they all are. They all are, but I think she was the one that was more so trying to mimic her mom, I guess. Yeah, inspired by her mom, for sure. They all obviously love her mom, and they're broken. That's why they all have the tie knot and everything like that. But yeah, I could definitely see that she's the one that's wanting to be most like her mom. But yeah, getting her story, which was very late in it, seemingly, shoot, I want to say that was in the third quarter. It took a while to get into Yuna's character, like, through, and when it got to it, it was really solid. Like I said, getting that idea that she feel like she doesn't want to, include Uryu into wanting to take over the shrine, and it was like a purpose behind that. But yeah, getting a perspective of her was great and everything. And like I said, I think she was probably the most dynamic overall character. But yeah, like I said before, Asahi's easily my favorite. She's the gremlin character. She's the little cis gremlin character, which was a nice thing to get with the loss of, Yuki last year from Roshidera. We went right into Asahi, and I'm like, okay, good, I got Asahi, so it's fine. She's a little gremlin, and yeah, getting into her character was super sweet as well. She's technically the one that really feels like she had to push herself the most to try to get out there. And obviously, again, it goes into most with these characters, don't treat me like a kid. She's the youngest. Obviously, she's going to feel that he's treating her like a kid because he is treating her like a kid. But yeah, getting her and her friendship with her friend and, what her actual desire is it to go to track? Is it to actually take over the shrine? All that kind of stuff was still solid. Overall, like I said, each one of these characters had a lot of depth to them, and it's something that you don't typically get from a shrine maiden harem type of show. It did feel like this writer had some plans to put into each of these characters that did develop them. Again, besides the fact that I find this show to be very forgetful, like, not forgetful, what did I say? Not very memorable. It's not a very memorable show. The other problem that I had is I hated most all of the childhood friends story arc. I really didn't like it. I just really, really didn't like that entire story arc. They went down some really weird yandere thing, and it didn't feel good. Like it felt so off. The entire arc felt so off. Like they were trying way too hard. I did like it. I like how it resolved. Because how it resolved, and this is literally the end of this season, the way that it resolved felt, I don't want to say satisfying, but it felt purposeful. Like it felt like they didn't want to sugarcoat it.
The childhood friend that was in the
orphanage, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they went some really cheesy route with her. I didn't care for it, really, any of it. Like I said, I like how it ended. It was a good end, but it didn't feel right at all. Like that entire arc was like, this just, I just don't care. Let's move on. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people liked it because it had lots of creepy faces. That's all I'll say. But yeah, it was overall, the entire season was an enjoyable. Like I said, when I was watching it, it was enjoyable. But it's one of those shows where I think a week out, it's already passed out the brain. Like I don't think I'll ever think back to the show in the future. I think it's getting another season. I would expect it to get another season, and I'll watch it. But at the same time, this is probably one of those ones I would suggest if I remember it. But it's solid. So there you go. Tie a knot with something. Guys, sister. Let's move on to I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll soul any boss to clock out on time. The Ria Kajimiya show. That's all you need to know. It's starring Ria Kajimiya. Moving on to the next one. Guild no uketsu keijo desu ka? Zangyo wa iya narore boss wo solo tobatsu shiyo to omoimasu. I know I always fumble over that last word. Anyways, this one opens up with Alina Clover, and she is, as the title leads you to believe, a guild receptionist. And she's always dreamed of becoming a guild receptionist. She just enjoys the idea of just do your work. It's got all the benefits you need. Then you go home and you relax for the rest of your day. You know, just a good clock in, do your job, clock out, rest kind of job. But unfortunately, reality is not so nice as, yes, when she becomes a guild receptionist, there's one big problem, and that's when anything happens, like if somebody's having a trouble with the boss down the dungeon, or, you know, you have some sort of complaint or whatever, there's tons of paperwork. And so she's often finding herself with massive overtime doing nothing but working on paperwork. And so, yes, one day when she was... The whole joke here is that, yes, at some point she wanted to go to this big festival. And there's this thing about the festival that if you're there, you can wish, and whoever wishes the most or something like that gets their wish granted. And so she really badly wanted to go there and make her wish about, again, hard work. But yes, she had a bunch of overtime and a bunch of paperwork to do, so she ended up missing the festival. And when she finally got out there and the festival was over, she literally just praying, like, please give me something so that I could be able to clock out on time. I'm so sick of the overtime. And she was granted at that point what they call a dia skill, which these are like skills that were like given to everybody back in the time by the gods, but those are like the ancient times. They no longer get those. And so she's granted this like really ancient ability, which is basically to summon this massive hammer and be extremely OP. And so, yes, whenever she now has overtime, she'll run off to the dungeon, one-shot the boss so that the people can get out of the dang dungeon so she can clock out on time. So that's kind of the joke there. And eventually, at some point, she ends up getting caught by one of the lead groups of this area, which is what they call the Silver Swords, something like that.
Silver Swords, I think.
Yeah, which is led by Jade Scrod. And Jade decides to try to track down who this person was and ends up spotting that it is Elena Clover, who is the guild receptionist. And so he's constantly trying to get her to join their group. And so she's like, no, leave me alone. If you mess up what I have, I will kill you. So, anyways. What are your thoughts? Review.
All right. I love this show at the beginning. I
Do it, Chris.
Do it?
Do it. But you have to add that last part to it.
Huh?
You have to add that last part to it, though. I love this show.
I love this show.
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
Okay.
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
No, I don't know when it trailed off. I would have to say it had something to do with the Dark God thing, the Dia skill gods. Dog.
Dia skill dog?
Dog.
You want your Dia skill dog? Sorry.
No, I don't hate it because it was exploring the mechanics of the world. The problem is that it got too muddled in there. I don't know how to explain it better than that because it seemed I almost got frustrated with it, and it started to lose its charm. There was a great charm, the charm between, or the charisma between Alina and Jade was great. I loved it. Even the kind of resolve-ish with the ultimate bad was fine. I didn't mind it. It just felt like it lost its kind of the flavor that it had at the beginning. The flavor it had at the beginning. Huh?
For me, it's the uniqueness.
You thought it lost that?
Yeah, because it turned into what felt like a typical adventure fantasy. That was sort of what I was afraid of, and I think I mentioned that in my first impressions. I'm like, if they could just keep to this, but if they start doing this, you lost what makes you special. It's the show is I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll solely boss clock out on time. You got rid of that first part of there. It's gone. That was my sadness.
I mean, even that last little bit when the big bad was when she was talking to the big bad and she was like, okay, no, I'm not going to kill you because you have this thing that you have to do because I am a guild receptionist. It was like this whole part was a joke that was getting built up. Now it
you
just
promised me you'd hired other people.
Yeah, I mean I liked that she's so one track minded, and that was still there. it just, like I said, it, for whatever reason, it felt like it was losing it in that whole big old gap of going through this entire thing, and it was kind of frustrating. So I'm not going to deny that. All in all, I'm warm on it. It was a fun show. It just, like I said, it got a little bit muddy towards the end.
What do you think about visuals?
They were good at the beginning. It somewhere around the middle, it felt like it was losing it there.
I'm still stuck on the fact that it's Cloverworks. I'm still stuck on the fact that this is Cloverworks. It's like I'm in the mindset where it's like it's not bad, but it's not Cloverworks.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's just not Cloverworks, and Cloverworks has some really good stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as I was with my first impressions that I am now. It's just now I'm just more solidified about it doing exactly what I didn't want it to do. And what I loved early on was I love Rie Takahashi. Like Rie Takahashi, she's Elena Clover. Like Elena Clover is Rie Takahashi. Like she plays Rie Takahashi, and she's an absolute goofball, and she nails every single line. Like this entire show is carried by her. She does a great job. It's kind of like that whole Spider So What situation. Aoyuki carried that show. It's like Elena Clover as Rie Takahashi carries this show. She is such a goofball. But I love the earlier moments of this show because it's about a guild receptionist, which I love my guild receptionist being angry about people wasting her time. It's about trying to get things managed properly, wanting more resources, dealing with annoying adventurers, and yeah, every now and then going out there and whacking something with a hammer. And then it very quickly, the moment that she sort of gets outed, and I think this is when we were doing our first impressions, I'm like, oh no. I think it was literally at the moment where Glenn came in and wanted to duel her or something like that. And it was like this whole idea of helping out Jade. And I'm like, and she's going to have to do that. She's going to have to help Jade. And then sure enough, she goes out and starts helping Jade. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. This is fine. We'll just do this really quickly and we'll go back, right? Because I'm literally in the same mindset as she is. Like, do this really quickly, get it done and over with, and we'll get back to the guild, the guild, and get your paperwork done. And it doesn't go back. Like it from that point on, it really did feel like the rest of the show was dungeon diving. It was helping Jade out. And then we have this brief moment where she's doing training with their give receptionist training thing. And we make like one joke about how like overtime is an expectation and that you should find join it or something like that. And then right back to dungeon stuff. Like it didn't want to, it just got so stuck in that. Like the training place, they got teleported down into a dungeon from the training place. Like they can't keep away from the damn dungeons. And so, like I said, it literally became what I didn't want it to become, which is another adventure show. Like any other fantasy adventure show where you go to the adventure counter, you get your mission, you go out and you dungeon dive. She suddenly went from that side of the counter to this side of the counter is really what it is. And that's what really kind of sucked about it. I agree with you. It still has the comedy there that jokes about the idea that she just wants to get her paperwork done. She just wants more resources. She's tired of working overtime. And every now and then a joke about being a receptionist. But for the most part, it didn't really feel like it wanted to stick with what made it unique. That's really what it is. Like, this is what made you unique. And again, I was talking about that with my first impressions. I'm like, you could do so much with this. Like, there's so much jokes you could do from the idea of it. You can literally look at all the other stories that have been made. There's tons of isekais and adventure fantasy shows that have guild receptionists. They go in there, they do something. You could easily make a joke out of every single one of those encounters, and it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
But it feels like they ran out really quickly, and they said, let's just focus on the DS and the secret skills and the old gods, and I could care less. Like, yeah, I for a brief moment was like, cool, lolly demon gods. Could care less. And with it not being visually that great, it didn't sell me on those fights being all that interesting. Yeah, the struggle. I did like Jade and Alina's relationship and how that, developed. But other than that, I just didn't really care. And the last boss, it was so obvious. It was so obvious, and it was like, this isn't that interesting. Like, I get his struggle, but it's just not interesting. I thought
that they were going to twist it. That for a second. It was like, oh, maybe they are gonna actually say it's no. It was him.
We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was, at least Jade knew it was coming. Jade knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, this is it, right? Yeah, it is. All right, we're not hiding it. It's fine. But yeah, visually, I really wish that it looked better, but it is what it is. I think Cloverworks has like 3 shows coming up next season, so they've been probably busy at work on summer. So this probably took a bit of a hit. I don't know that for sure. I know people like making weird articles about that kind of stuff. So don't quote me on that. I'm just making a passing joke. But yeah, that's... Anything else on that one? Maybe Guild Receptionist, but I clock out on time. It was alright. In the end, it was alright. Dragon Ball Daima. That technically ended this season. I'm doing the wrong one. The show that I want to talk more about, but unfortunately, Toei's a bunch of jerks. But yeah, Dragon Ball Daima... I forget how many episodes this ran for, like 15? I have none of my information entered here because I never made videos on it because I was afraid of the company. I'm bringing it up. We're bringing it up live. It was 20. That's right. It's 20 episodes. That's right. It went 2 cores, so it makes sense. But yeah, Dragon Ball Daima, for those who don't know, this takes place like shortly after Dragon Ball Z. It acts like Super didn't happen, and instead they decide to go down into the Demon Realm where they need to find the Dragon Balls because the current lead of the Demon Realm, which is Goma, he watched them take down like Boo and all that kind of stuff, and so they wanted to stop them in case they came after them. So he goes up to the surface, finds the Dragon Balls, turns everybody into little kid forms, and then goes back into the Demon Realm. So they all have to go down the Demon Realm in order to essentially, 1, get Dende back because they kidnapped Dende, but 2, find the Dragon Balls in the Demon Realm and use them in order to, change themselves back and then rescue Dende. And so it's basically going to each of the levels of the Demon Realm and eventually going down there to face Goma and get all the Dragon Balls on the way down. And meeting new characters down there as well. We have somebody that knew Babidi, or at least was connected to Babidi. Getting into like so much lore. I was joking about I think I told you as well. Getting into so much lore about the world itself, which it really made me wonder if this is Akira Toriyama's... Yes, Akira Toriyama was involved in this. This is like literally his last project before unfortunately passing away. Rest his soul. But it's like this is like his last like project really that he worked on. But there's so much about it that makes me wonder how much was actually canon, because there's so much lore from the Demon Realm. And I don't recall them ever mentioning any of this stuff anywhere else in the Dragon Ball series, which is what really makes it fascinating. Like, if you are a Dragon Ball fan, I know there was some groups of people that poo-pooed the idea of Dragon Ball Daima. They wanted more Super. They wanted more of this. They wanted more of that. So when they announced Daima, there was a group of people that were just mad. They're like, no, this is not what we want. And I'm like, well, if it's being done by Akira Toriyama, would you not want it? But there's a side of me that's like, even if you wanted to poo-poo it and say that it's not canon and not wanting to watch it, because if this stuff is canon, this is like deep lore stuff. Like, it gets into like where everybody came from. Like the Supreme Kais, like their race, where'd they come from? The Demon Realm. Like, it's getting into where the Dragon Balls came from, the Demon Realm. Like, all this stuff, like a lot of what is in the universe of Dragon Ball is from this Demon Realm. Like, it almost feels like it pretty much puts it as way that this is the origins of everything. And so that stuff was really cool. But additionally, and I've talked about this before, and I truly do feel this way, I don't think it's canon because at some point Goku goes Super Saiyan 4, which, for those who don't know, that was something that form was in GT, which was not canon. And it almost felt like that was almost Akira Toriyama's way of saying, yeah, I like that form too, because I'm going to put it in here. But yeah, my assumption is that this is not truly canon because he did that. And then the original canon storyline goes into, Super Saiyan God and Ultra Instincts, Ultimate Instinct. I always forget what it's called. UI Goku. UI Goku is in Super. But I loved it. I really do. I did like this season. Like, I think this is probably up there. It's not It's probably it's easily above Super for sure. Because I think Super is like I personally don't care about Super. I just didn't. There's some cool stuff in Super, but this is definitely a lot better arc than that. And of course Z is up there above everything else. I think Z is still probably one of the best arcs. But I did really love this season because it's similar to why I loved at least the earlier moments of GT. Is that it is a reset. This is a reset. This is where we're gonna, we're gonna nerf everybody. We're gonna nerf everybody and make them have to push again. Now, it's not one of those cases where GT, especially, where they make Goku and Vegeta, those characters, like super weak, so that Krillin can fight alongside them, because they get left behind. Like, most of the fighting is done by Goku and Vegeta still. Like, they are still the ones that are front runners. But at least it brings them down enough that people like Glorio and whatnot they meet down there will help them out. But it was a cool little kind of just adventure. It really gets back in that whole idea of just adventure. Let's just ride around in worlds that are just unknown. It's almost like planet visiting, all that kind of stuff. These areas that they don't know. There's unfamiliar foods. What do you eat? What you don't eat? Different types of gravity. All that kind of stuff. It's that adventure again, and different societies and all that kind of stuff. Again, just seeing them go down there and beat the crap out of the Dragon Ball carriers, getting the Dragon Balls, fighting the big bad at the very end. It was all really super cool. It was all really super cool. I really enjoyed it in the end. It was charming. It was fun. And through, I really enjoyed it. So
I think he has a thing for going back to the idea of the Dragon Balls. That was the entire thing of GT, wasn't it? Was going to get the Dragon Balls from there as well.
Well, GT is where it all, them using the Dragon Balls works against them, yeah.
And so every time it seems like he goes off. I mean, did Super go back to the Dragon Balls? I don't. I think they mentioned it in the tournament arc.
Yeah, the tournament grants you the access to the Universal Dragon Balls, or what they're called. The super duper Dragon Balls.
Yeah, the ones that are the size of planets.
The size of planets, yeah, those ones. You just don't bring them together and you can have it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really fun, charming characters, fun adventure, and probably one of the funniest lines in the history of Dragon Ball. Mm-hmm. With Bulma going out there and say, "I won't take a bath with you anymore."
It's Vegeta involved again.
I won't take a bath with you anymore. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. But yeah, Dragon Ball Daima. Really
all of my favorite quotes are Vegeta involved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he even said, I think he said Super Saiyan Bargain Cell again in this one.
Did he?
Yeah. Because he went Super Saiyan 4. Didn't like it. But yeah, that's Dragon Ball Daima. Ameku MD, Doctor Detective. The house... The anime, as everybody seems to call it. I have no clue because I've seen clips of House, but I've never actually sat down and watched House. Just not my cup of tea. Usually a lot of those doctor shows I don't really watch. Which I watched this one because it has a waifu in it. Andrew finally watched a doctor show, and it's because it has a lolly doctor lady in it. Anyways, yes, Ameku MD, Doctor Detective, Ameku, Tako no Suiri Karte. This one is done by Project Number 9, ran for 12 episodes on Crunchyroll. Source is a novel. Genres are mystery, slice of life. And yeah, this one follows Ameku, which is a doctor. This one, well, initially it opens up with this one doctor, Takanashi, and he is working in this kind of ER area. And at some point, this other doctor was talking to him and talking about how he's working, as an assistant to the famous Ameku, which this Ameku is like this really young looking doctor that is like a part of like their investigative medical investigation group. I forget exactly what the group was called, but they're basically ones that like, do investigations for like unsolved like medical emergencies and whatnot, things that most people don't figure out. And yeah, sure enough, she shows up at some point and starts to kind of, well, she first shows up because she's mad that it's taken them so long to get done. And so he's like, we're backed up. We got all these people in here we need to take care of. And she just goes to each one of the beds and basically goes, let me see your chart. Yeah, it's this problem. Go to the next one. Yeah, this chart. Yeah, it's this problem. Like, she just figures out so freaking fast. She's just kind of a genius. She's a genius, basically. So, but yeah, what goes from this is that, yeah, it's Ameku as she is, getting involved with different medical emergencies and mysteries, things that nobody else can really solve, and solving those issues. For example, they have this one situation where these two sisters, at some point, they were at this train stop, and they were watching this like viral video that it's like one of those videos that, you don't watch it because you'll get haunted or whatever. And they're both watching this video, and suddenly out of nowhere, one of the girls just starts walking forward, like just absent-mindedly. She just starts walking forward and gets hit by the train. She survives, by the way. She gets hit. She survives, but yeah, they're afraid because, well, what the doctors and everybody around her come to conclusion of is that she is trying to end her own life, and so they're putting her on watch and everything like that. Well, again, Ameku is going to figure out what exactly that is. Ends up finding out there is some sort of issue here. I forget exactly what it is, but it sort of is a brain trigger, whatever, sort of like a epilepsy kind of thing. And they're like, well, they're sisters. Why would only one of them be affected by that? Because they end up both having the same trait. But it's getting into things like that. That there's this little flash in the video. It causes this, and it caused them to do that. It's not necessarily that she is, in threat of harming herself. It's that kind of stuff. And each of the mysteries has their own complexity. Some of the mysteries span multiple episodes. But yeah, that's the gist of the show. So my thoughts on Ameku MD. First, visually, not good. Visually, it's not great. There's quite a bit of wonkiness to the show. Odd character designs. Most of the episodes are fine, but there's every now and then these moments where it just feels like it kind of struggles a little bit. But it's watchable. It's not not great, but at the same time, it's watchable. But I think overall this show is a solid watch. I did enjoy. Mostly because I enjoy Ameku's character. Again, I guess this is probably why a lot of people like House, is the idea that this is a doctor that doesn't really have normal social awareness. Like, she has she's socially awkward. Like, she just does not know how to communicate to people. She's very blunt about everything. She doesn't sugarcoat things. The way that she approaches situations is super wrong. But at the same time, she's human in the idea that every now and then you will see sides of her that is sort of fragile. You'll have there's this one situation where she has a cancer patient that she used to work with. Now she's kind of seen the cancer patient come back because they're having a relapse or whatever. There's moments where you see that she is human, that she does have vulnerabilities, she does have fears, but for the most part, she is somebody that just does not have those normal boundaries that most people have that they know not to cross. She'll just walk right past it, and she'll probably wipe her feet on the mat as she goes by. Like, she doesn't care. So that's kind of the charm that she has as a character, and I think a lot of my enjoyment of the series overall is around her character and how she kind of addresses situations and how people react to her addressing situations. The mysteries overall, they're okay. Like, there's a few of them where I kind of drew conclusions pretty quickly about as to what they were doing with the investigation and where it was going. So I do kind of like that when there's some cases where you could sort of draw a conclusion as the character is. But there's a lot of cases where I don't know how anybody would find that conclusion before she does. There's a lot of cases where drawing conclusions on certain things, or at least bringing some evidence to light that wasn't really addressed, and then saying, okay, here's the solved mystery. But for the most part, there is clues, sporadically placed throughout the entire scenario that if you know what they're talking about, you could probably draw the conclusion. But in some cases, you're going to have to, I guess, have some sort of medical knowledge in order to catch them all. But there were good mysteries overall. I enjoyed most of them. There was probably 2 or 3 of the mysteries I didn't really care much for. But it was a solid little detective medical type of series that I enjoyed in the end. So it was solid. It's Ameku MD. Watch that if that's interesting to you. What next, Chris? The Red Ranger, Chris. It's time for the Red Ranger. Are you ready for the Red Ranger?
Sure.
Did you like a Red Ranger? Do you like your Red Rangers? Nobody cares about Red Rangers. They care about Yidra. We only care about the mage Yidra. The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world, or Sentai Ready Sekai de Bokinsha ni Naru. This one's streamed on Crunchyroll, ran for 12 episodes, done by Satellite, sources of manga, action, adventure, comedy, fantasy. This one follows, initially it follows the Red Ranger, where the Red Ranger is fighting the evil Breakup King. The evilest of evil Breakup King. And as he's fighting the Breakup King in his lair, he does that final big strike on the Breakup King, and he's falling to his death, presumably. And at some point, he finds himself transported to another world. Then we cut over to Yidra, who is a mage in this other world, this fantasy world, and she is one of these, what is it called, the Scepter? Well, she was trying to become the Scepter of the Kingdom, which the Scepter of the Kingdom is like the pinnacle of the mages. Like, you are the top mage of the kingdom, and a lot of the research and everything goes through them. And she's from a bloodline, or her father was the Scepter, and at some point that got taken over, and so she's trying to reclaim that position as the Scepter. And so she needs some like really breakout like discovery or something of magic that'll prove herself. And she's trying to find somebody to go with her to get some mana crystals or something like that. So she needs somebody that she can trust, that's strong. And so she gives out this little call to the Adventure Guild for people to come there and fight this golem that she created. Whoever can beat the golem, she'll know they're strong enough that she can go with them to get these mana crystals. Well, yeah, a couple people show up. They get their butt kicked by the golem. Eventually, yes, the Red Ranger, Toga Asakaki, shows up, and he just transforms into his Red Ranger outfit. She's like freaking out, like, what just happened? He's doing his pose, and there's an explosion behind like the Super Sentais do, and she's like, why is there an explosion? Who keeps calling out his attacks? There's like some voiceover that's going off. And he's like, punching things and it explodes, and she just can't figure out what the hell's happening. But yeah, she ends up hiring him, and yeah, very quickly starts to try to do research on him. Like, she badly wants to know what is the source of his power. And she's hoping that whatever that source is, she can utilize for her research. But yeah, they're traveling together. She's trying to figure him out. At some point, they end up meeting the princess of this kingdom. She is going around trying to find these like mana seeds that are corrupting people, that grant people powers, but then absorbs them. She's trying to find them and get the seeds themselves and save the kingdom because they're a threat to the kingdom. Thoughts? Reviews? All that stuff.
I liked it. I had a lot of fun with this show. The goofy antics between most of the characters was just absolutely too fun. I only had one little bit of a kind of a weak spot. It somewhere in the middle of the kind of Sphinx arc that they did. But even that wasn't that bad. I still enjoyed it all said and done. And I absolutely loved the something that I was kind of screaming about was that I wanted the entire team, and they were kind of hinting at it towards the end. So I'm kind of really excited if they ever actually kind of extend this show. As far as visuals, yeah, visuals kind of weren't working towards the end. It started getting a little bit rough. But all said and done, they made it somehow.
They made it past the finish line. Pachi. Yeah, visually it wasn't bad. I never cared for the CGI that they utilized in the show, but at some point I just got used to it. Like his big O Power Ranger mecha thing that he summons up, just like super shiny CGI. The first monster they ran into, that was bad. Yeah, big monsters and the mecha suits, it's a little bit too shiny. The texture just doesn't match the rest of the show, but it's fine. But I agree with you, the visuals kind of they struggled, but it made it. Again, it's one of those ones where you made it past the finish line, Pachi, you made it. But it's kind of one of those ones where like it's not like Guild Receptionist is as bad, but it's kind of that same realm where it's like at some point you realize, this is what we got. But no, yeah, this show is carried by the comedy, which for me personally hit. Like, I am not a big Super Sentai fan. I mean, we watched some Power Rangers back in the day, the whole westernization of that whole property. But I've never been like a massive Super Sentai fan. There's a little bit of dabbling I did in Gora and that kind of stuff. And so watching something like this, I had a fear that I wouldn't get a lot of the comedy, but it's like, I guess there probably is references that I'm missing, but for the most part, I get what they're going with. I understand what they're doing. I get the poses. I get the sounds. The music itself is so Super Sentai. The action poses, the explosions, the summoning, the power of friendship stuff. All that stuff is still there that I recognize, and how it makes fun of it is just great. Like, what makes the show is Yidra. Like, her reaction to all this stuff, which is literally me most of the time watching Super Sentais, is what it is. Like, it's making fun of, at the same time parodying, at the same time it feels like an homage to it. Like, it feels like it's respecting the stuff. Like, I kind of want to hear from the big Super Sentai fans out there that did this hit for you, or was it disrespectful, or was it like, yeah, it did it. It did the joke. It just did the joke. But for the most part, I feel like I am Yidra most of the time, just kind of, yeah, that I get it. I get you. That's absurd. And having those moments where, like, yeah, when he first poses when they're fighting something and it blows up and it sends her flying,
his
I'm like,
guild card is
perfect.
taken over by his center. His
Yeah,
episode markers.
I love the card. Yeah, the guild card's great because it's basically an advertisement. Like, it's not a guild card. What is this thing that I'm watching? Her reaction to how absurd he is great, and just how they play out the jokes. I point out last time. I point out again that whole segment where they're underground and suddenly he says, "I got to summon this suit," and I'm like, "But they're in a okay, yeah, like they're inside of a cave. It's not gonna fit. Yeah, it didn't fit in there. So yeah, I got it before they even showed it. Just the silliness of how." He's not he's oblivious main character. Like he's a main character that's just so pure hearted is really what it is. He's pure hearted.
He's shown in Fireheart.
Yeah,
go get him type.
How he doesn't get the romance isn't really there, but there's obviously that she's thirsty for him, and she keeps trying to push her bounds, but then flustering herself at the same time. Him finally having that moment. Just how he always just simplifies things. It's what it is. He's oversimplifies everything. It's not like an aspect of like, can these two trust each other? It really comes down to, do we see an agreement? We're together. We're one. Like having this whole moment where the princess and her lackey Logi hates him, thinks that he's going to steal away the princess or whatever, kind of cause her harm, doesn't trust him. And then having these moments where suddenly they're having a duel, and then he gets inside the mecha suit. Obviously, Yidra gets in there with him because she's part of his band. But then you have the princess pops in it, and they're like, "But why is the princess in here when he's dueling her lackey?" It's like, well, we have an agreement. We're going to do something together, so we have bonds. Like everything, it's so simple as we made an agreement. Bonds. Of course, we fight together. It's so simple in his mind, and how that kind of just. Most of the time, it just throws people off by how simple it is. But every now and then, they'll kind of go, yep, that's, of course, because it's that simple for him. That stuff it never got old. And that was kind of a surprising thing to me as I watched the show from the beginning to end. Their reaction to what he does as the Red Ranger and the crazy stuff that he's able to summon, the friendship gun, and how everybody has to be on the same boat. And it's such a stupid design, but that's how it works. So they have to figure it out. Those things are so absurd.
I can finally use my full strength now that I have 5 people.
Yeah. They're like, why isn't it working? Oh, because we're not in agreement or something. And it's like, why would this work like this? That doesn't make any sense. We're going to die. Why would you summon this thing when we all... we're in competition with these other two dudes. Why would you do that? It was great. Like, all the way through, it was great. Had some hilarious moments with the relationship between him and Yidra. I love the whole bath scene where she accidentally summons him and he's just like standing over the top of her. By the way, immediately clicks that it's a danger summon, so he immediately goes into attack mode, but he's like right above her and she's in the tub, and it has that stupid voiceover, very bad. The very bad guy was great. And then cutting, and then after that, she wants to do more experiments to try to figure out the summoning thing more, and they get a little bit too comfy that night. And then to having the princess the next day, like, wait, did you both just bond merger? No, princess, why would you say bond merger? That's way too much for bond merger. The stupid voice is like censoring out her saying bang. like there were some hilarious moments throughout the series. The only negative, I didn't care much for really most of the, like Chris was saying, the whole Sphinx thing, and I like what they were doing with the overall plot line with that inclusion. Like, it's a cool, interesting addition, but it got too serious. The only thing that really did carry it for me, even though it got really serious towards the later part, is the fact that it still had the jokes in there. Like, it still had how he oversimplifies things. You still had Yidra being flustered, or her reactions to things. You had the princess's reaction to things. There's still silliness throughout it, so it's not like it gets too heavy, but the plot line, overall plot line, gets too serious to the point where it's like, I just want them to be shenanigans going around and blowing stuff up. I don't really care to get too serious with this plot line, but that would probably be my only big negative, is that it just gets too serious. But I still love it, though. Like, I think Yidra's character is fantastic. She was definitely she's up there in the waifu list, especially for winter for me. I love her. But it was good. It was good. Overall, good. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the tease at the end, I don't think it's getting another season. I doubt it will get another season. I mean, having that end scene there makes you think they would, but again, that could just be a source material bait.
Probably.
Not that they really seem like they do that stuff much anymore, but I don't know. We'll see. I'd take it. I'd take another season. That's Red Ranger. Red Ranger. Anything else? No. Honey Lemon Soda. I finished that. I don't have much to say. I don't have much to say, but I finished it. Honey Lemon Soda, streamed on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by JC Staff, source of manga. Genres are romance. This one follows Uka Ishimori, who is going to a new school. She's trying to change herself, this new year, gonna change it. I'm not gonna be like my old self, because, yeah, in her previous year, she was known as, I forget what they called her, the stony girl, something like that. She just seemed like she was just always off-putting and motionless or whatever, so they called her Stony Girl. But yeah, she wants to start new in her new life, but unfortunately she still has her hesitations, her fears that are kind of caused by everything that she went through before. Some people spot her and recognize who she is and starts calling out her name again. So it's all kind of going downhill again. But thankfully, she went to this school because this guy had helped her out before. That's why she chose this school, because he said to go to this one. And that's Kai Miura. And Kai is pretty much a delinquent person, but at the same time, everybody kind of respects him. A lot of people fear him. And he kind of quickly speaks up and starts to help her. And what sort of comes from this is that she really quickly falls in love with him and, wants to be with him. At the same time, he's constantly kind of carrying her everywhere, helping her out, encouraging her to to stand up for herself and grow a backbone. And that's really what it kind of shifts into very quickly, is this idea of her having a codependence on him to protect her, but then at some point him trying to push her to stand on her own 2 feet. So it's kind of like an opposite to what I initially thought the show was going to be early on, which is there's the hot guy that saves her and is super nice, and she doki doki because he always saves her. It very quickly, the story shifts into the idea of, you need to do this on your own. I can't always carry you. Stand up for yourself. What are you doing? I told you, stand up for yourself. Stop waiting for me to come in here and do something for you. And that was kind of something that I did respect for the show. And it very quickly, and it kind of shifts into her more so trying to prove herself to him, prove that she can stand beside him without relying on him, until eventually kind of building into something more later on. So yeah, my thoughts on the show. Oh yeah, and they spray each other with lemon soda all the time. And he really likes lemon soda. That's the story, anyways. I'm super mixed. I'm super mixed. I didn't like the show early on because, like I said, my presumption was he saves her story, which is fine. I'm perfectly fine. I've watched plenty and went through plenty of stories like that. It's fine, the idea of the girl who is in a difficult place, obviously because she was bullied. She's in a very difficult spot. She's very uncomfortable. She's scared, and that she needs somebody to have a spine to stand up and say, hey, back off, people. Like, it's not cool. Finally stand up to the bullies and say, leave this girl alone until she can get to a point where she can stand on her own 2 feet. What I respect about the show is that element of it eventually turning into him saying, you got to do it yourself. Like, I can't always be here. You have to get your own courage. You need, because essentially when it comes down to something like that, where somebody has scars or something from a situation like bullying, it's not like anybody can fix it. It's the person who was bullied has to make that first step. They have to get that courage themselves. It's not like anybody can fix that for them. They have to be the one that stands up. And I think it was pretty good how they addressed that stuff. And I think later on, even get to the point where they even get into the idea that people find Kai to be the one that does that. Like, he is this person that they said at some point, is he the next, what was it? I forget the exact wording they did, because there was this other girl, Serena, they bring up later on. She's the same situation. They call them like people that Kai has sort of, the protected ones or something like that. Like, they're just, are you the next one for Kai to fix or something like that? Like, they literally turn it into a derogatory thing. And I thought that was kind of interesting that they actually addressed it in a way of like, at face value, this is a white knight show. Like, he is the white knight to save all the pathetic girls. But then it turns into a story bit of it's a kind of a bad thing. And I kind of like that it did that. So overall, like, the plot lines of Uka and her story and what they did with her character and how Kai fits in with that was surprising to me, that it didn't fit the mold that I expected it to. And it did cool things. But how they delivered that over 12 episodes was some of the most repetitive stuff I have ever watched. So it's like, you have this cool, interesting concept, and the way you handled it was genuinely cool. I like these characters. I think they had some cool plot lines. And I like those moments of overcoming things. I especially love the episodes with Uka's father. I think it was one, maybe it may have been 2 episodes. The whole segment with Uka's father was super good. I think it was cheesy how it ended. Super cheesy. No way in hell somebody would show up at that. No way in hell those bullies would show up there. It was cheesy, but it was really powerful. It has powerful moments, but this writer has a problem with spinning their wheels. And not just spinning their wheels, but just running in a circle. Like, there's so much of this story that feels like it's just repeating itself. It's on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. So that's like literally its biggest flaw, is that it's just, at some point I'm going, I feel like I've watched this episode already. Like, when you feel like you've watched the episode already and you haven't, you know it's retreading ground and it's just repeating itself. And it was easily its biggest weakness that really did throw me off. But overall, like I said, it was good. It was good in the end. But yeah, Honey Lemon Soda. That's that show. What next? Medalist, Chris. It is time. You made it.
Yes.
Chris made it. The one show I wanted to watch. He watched it, guys. Medalist, streaming on Disney and Hulu, ran for 13 episodes, done by ENGI. Source is a manga. Genres are drama, psychological, sports. Has a second season announced.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't know if I want to get his impression, because that's going to spoil if he liked it or not. But yeah, Medalist, this series follows Tsukasa, who is he was somebody that got into figure skating a little bit late, and because of that, I kind of felt like he was never going to make it big, because typically, yes, you get into a sports or something, you have to start early. And he always had like a hesitation of getting into it until eventually, again, he was super late in it. He ended up going into competitions and everything like that, but then kind of fell out of it. But yeah, we follow him as he's trying to get a job. He eventually goes to this one place where he was supposed to look at a job, and it was at this one skating rink. He ends up spotting this Inori, who is basically jumping the booth. Like, she's getting into the place without paying. And so he goes to chase her down, and she runs out of the building, and the guy at the counter is like, no, it's fine. You know, she's covered, whatever. He ends up chasing her anyways. And she's doing a bunch of crazy parkour to run away. Eventually, she climbs up the side of this building, nearly falls to her death, but he ends up catching her. And that's when she kind of tells him, no, look, I was paying with worms. Like, I got an agreement with the owner that I'll bring him worms. He's like, he's just doing that because he's being nice. You got to make sure that you pay, otherwise these buildings will go out of business. But then you notice that she has this booklet that is for, learning to figure skate, and it's just full of notes. Like, she has been doing some crazy studying, and he's like, you're really serious about figure skating. Do you have a coach? And he's like, no, I don't have a coach. She's like, you should talk to your parents because you should get into figure skating now before it's too late. Like, you're getting to, she's like 11 at the time. So like, you're already starting late. You need to start now, find a coach so you don't hurt yourself and get in now. Because again, he's got his own regrets about starting too late. And so he's trying to push him, go talk to your mom, get it done. Cut forward, he's going to, he ends up running into who he actually used to figure skate with. She was the one that got the job for him, and that's to become a teacher. And he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm a failure of a figure skater. I can't do that. She's like, no, you'll do fantastic. You're really great at it. And then suddenly Inori shows up. She actually talked her mom into, going to find a coach, and she was bringing Inori there to have the coaches tell her that it's too late. And we kind of find out later on that, yes, the mother doesn't want Inori to figure skate because her older sister used to be into figure skating, and she injured herself and lost all of the work that she'd done. Like, she was, put all that time and money into it just to get injured, and she lost all that time. So she doesn't want Inori to have the same problem. But then, yeah, Tsukasa ends up having her, do some tests on the ice. She does an incredible job. And he's like, dude, look at her. She's incredible. Hell yeah, let her join already. Eventually, they talk the mom into it. There's like this whole thing where Inori breaks down because she's been basically, outed by all of her classmates. They all think that she's stupid, and she just has never really had anything that she could kind of strive for. She loves figure skating, and this is the one thing that she wants to do. This is one thing that she wants to do to shine. And so she finally agrees to it. But yeah, it starts to, Tsukasa training her, and she's really fantastic at like hard work and pushing to things. She's already, learned a lot of the basics, but now she's got to learn the foundations, build herself up, get her badges, go to competitions, all that stuff. Thoughts? Review?
It's wonderful. No, this is a great story. I really love Inori. The overall story was one of just slowly, it didn't jump too much. I mean, I think the biggest time gap that they had was maybe 6 or 7 months, because it said it's been a year
take a break, and then boom,
yeah.
we're going again.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're gonna take a break and have them like get, I don't know, slice of life, some character moments or something. Nope, we're back on the ice. Okay.
At the worst, I mean, I do love the fact that they got the kind of big injury out of the way. However, I do know, as somebody who has shin splints himself, I do know that that's not a thing that goes away. So I think that that's going to be a recurring theme for her. Hopefully not. Hopefully they got the injury out of the way, and we won't have to do that ever again at any point. But yeah, just seeing her strive to keep getting better and better and better. Having a little tidbit between Rio and Tsukasa, that was a fantastic little interaction. I love the skating kind of events where they're actually up on the ice. I think they did fantastic with that. Even if it was CGI, I still think they did fantastic with it. So yeah, I loved it overall. I probably one of the best of the season.
Yeah, I had my list, my top 10 list. This was number 2, and that's only because we had ReZero. Like, easily for new shows, by far, number 1. I mean, I would even fight with ReZero. It's just one of those aspects where ReZero is sort of built up for me. Yeah. Like, if this was season 3, I would probably have a fight here. Like, we would be duking it out. But no, I adore this show. If it doesn't tell you enough that this is my number 1 of new shows and number 2 of overall shows, I absolutely love this show. There's multiple things this does, and it does so perfectly. Let's start with the visuals. I think visually it looks fantastic. I love the character designs. Super cute, super fun. Even the adult characters, I love all their designs. The emotion in the characters come across so perfectly well. How many times we have to see an Inori crying face before I'm just breaking down in tears. The character designs themselves are fantastic. The visuals are all great. I'm actually a fan of the CGI they used with this one. As much as I would love them to 2D draw everything, which they technically did. Like there's certain performances that they hand drew, like Rio's performance later on. It doesn't seem like they wanted to make a 3D model. For those that don't know, making a CGI model is difficult. Like it's not like it's easy to create a CGI model. It's just if you're going to have the character do a lot of performances in that same outfit, they're going to want to make a model because they can just keep reusing that model. So when you have cases where the character is not using the usual outfit, they will just hand draw it rather than make a whole model for it. So we had this one moment where Rio was doing a performance. They didn't want to make a model, so they decided to actually draw it. And they actually did those performances, those actual hand-drawn ones, fantastic. But yeah, when they actually do use in most cases, do use the CGI models, I think they turn out fantastic. And I think that's partly because I think the character models kind of lend it to it. Like these character models, technically, very more chibi, small neck, big head kind of style to the characters. I think they actually do fit the style of CGI. But even like Tsukasa's performance, they actually made a model of him, and it's impressive when I go, it is okay. Like if I have to actually look, like it's not super obvious. Like I have a pause there for a minute. It's like, okay, this is actually really good model they made for him. But the CGI works really well, mainly because, in my opinion, well, not my opinion, mainly because they actually mocapped the performances. Like they actually had figure skaters and they mocapped the figure skater actually doing the performance. And they took that and they put the model on top of it. And that's why, even though it is CGI, the performance itself is so great. And then you add on this director, like hats off, like whoever was everybody that worked on it. I don't want to just put on one person. Everybody that worked on it to make these perspective shots, each land, like every single position of the perspective with each move the character is doing, jumping up, doing the spin, hitting the ground, every time it comes down to the corner and then they turn. Like all the perspective shots just added to the performance and made them absolutely stunning. Like there was one, I think it was Hikaru. In a lot of cases, just like most sports shows, you'll have the performance, and then every now and then somebody go, "Yeah, they landed it," or "Oh my gosh, are they going to do it? Oh my gosh, hope they do well." Like every now and then you have the sideliners. You'll have the sideliners every now and then pop up and speak up. What's coming up next? There was one of them, and I think it was Hikaru, where nobody said a word the entire performance, and I'm like, at the end of it, I realized it. I'm like, oh, nobody said anything. Thank you, because that was stunning. Like from the beginning to the end, she grabbed me, and that performance was so fantastic. These performances, these figure skating performances, were so freaking good. Now, I will admit, I'm kind of a fan of figure skating. I don't want to get me the wrong impression here. It's not like I sit there and watch figure skating on a regular basis. It's just if it's on, I will watch it. Like if I see a performance, I will watch the performance. It's not like I go out of my way to go watch figure skating.
It's okay, Andrew. I do that when I see pool on. Well,
I mean, it's like
billiards. It's
like billiards the same way. I agree with there. Yeah, if I see a cool shot, I'm gonna watch it. I'm not like a football fan. I'm not like a baseball fan. I'm not a basketball fan. And like when it comes to Olympics, I don't care to watch pole vaulting. I don't care to watch. Usually, the only things that I'll
watch the full 8 hours of the track run.
Every one of them. I like the sled team.
The sled team.
The sled's the worst. It just
the skiers.
Anyways, I don't get it. I know you all know. Don't judge me. Y'all just looking for the crashes. It's like nobody watches Daytona because they want to watch it go in a circle. They're waiting for the crash.
You ain't supposed to call people out like that, Andrew. You're getting.
Y'all know that you watch hockey because you want to see them punch each other. That's why they don't break up the fights. Everybody wants to watch them punch each other. But no, if I'm watching Olympics, I typically the only ones I'm really ever like I will. If I'm flipping through the channel, back when I used to actually flip through channels, if I'm going through a feed and there's something Olympic comes up, I would probably only stop to watch it if it's going to be something like gymnastics. What do they call them? The 3 bar? What do they call them?
The
bar.
2 bar?
Yeah, where they do the flipping around the bar and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, it's really only gymnastic kind of stuff because
no. Parallel bars is the ones that they're next to each other.
Anyways, stop. We're gonna make fools of ourselves. Because there are a lot of cases where there's stuff that just has like a dynamic to it. There's something interesting about it that is different. And it's easy to understand. I think it's a big thing there is because you can easily understand when something goes wrong or they're trying towards something. That doesn't seem like it's quite off. It's easy to understand. But anyways, where was I going with all this? But it's not like I go out of my way to watch figure skating. But these performances were so beautifully done. But that's not enough. Like, the performance itself is not enough. I think the big key thing is that every one of these performances had weight. And that's the big thing. We've talked about this before. It's like that's the true sign of a well-wrote sports show is that there's weight behind every performance. And it really sucks for me because as I'm watching this show, I want Inori to win. I want Inori to win everything. I want this girl to smile forever. This smile must be protected. She must be successful. But then suddenly I find myself cheering for Emma. And I'm like, but Emma's not the one I'm supposed to be cheering for. But I really like Emma's story and about her, growth spurt and the growth pains and all that kind of stuff and everything she's had to go through in order to prove herself. But no, Inori's supposed to win it. She can't win.
What about Michan?
And then suddenly Mike comes up there and I'm like, but I want to cheer on Mike, but then she messed up and now she looks dejected because she failed her routine. But Mike, I hope you win. Wait, I'm supposed to cheer on Inori. Damn it. Like every one of these characters, and yes, Rio too. Every one of these characters, at some point, I'm just like, I'm finding myself on the sideline cheering them on, then going, I'm sorry, Inori, I'll stop. There's weight to the performances. There's a story behind every one of them, and to get that out of me is just not something I typically do with sports shows. Typically with sports shows, I'll either be invested in the story outside of the performance, I'll be invested into the characters or something like that, but very rarely where I'm like just literally wanting to jump out of my seat and start cheering, you got it, girl, go, you got it, kind of thing. It's that kind of excitement that I got from it. But yeah, all the stories are fantastic. The developments of the characters, Inori especially, obviously, because she's the main girl. Inori has a lot to do with insecurities, the anxieties that she has. I love how there's no fix-all. This girl is obviously dealing with people. It's not like they're not outright saying that people come up and bully her at school, but it's an isolation bully. It's the idea that nobody wants to include her. They make comments about her. And that's enough. That is enough that has made her feel like dirt.
Well,
she's an outsider.
Speaking of which, I love the fact that she even brought up the fact that she's actually able, because now that she's doing this and she's gone so deep into it, she feels like her athleticism has increased, and people are starting to notice that she's actually running faster than everybody else and longer, or she's doing this, that and she's got more confidence and stuff like that.
Yeah, and she jumps up at the bell.
Yeah.
She jumps up at the bell and runs out the door, and everybody's like, oh, there's something different about her. Like, she seems much more happy. Yeah, boosting confidence for sure. But again, that goes back to that whole original story they had for her, is the idea that I feel like I have nothing. This is where it hurts. She literally hates herself. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate me. I hate who I am. I hate that nobody looks to me. I hate that I'm so stupid. I hate this. I hate that. That's what Inori feels in herself.
Especially that last routine that she did, and she's saying sayonara, that was ripping me apart. I loved it.
Goodbye, old self. But yeah, oh my God, the mom. Her story with a mom is what really got punched. It's like, it seems nasty at first. I knew this was coming. Like, it seems nasty at first. Like, she does not want her. She's literally telling the coach, tell her no. I brought her here so you could tell her no. She's literally saying no, and even later on saying, until this grade, we're gonna play into it for now, but then after this, no. It's like you wanna be angry at her, but at the same time, there's a reason there. She just wants to protect her daughter. I seen this with my other daughter. She got hurt, wasted all that time. I don't want to have that happen to her. And it gives in deeper in the idea of like, she doesn't seem like she has much, and if she loses this, I feel like she won't have anything. It's sad, but then that moment where she finally goes, I'm sorry I haven't been supporting you. Now I'm here. I'm sorry I wasn't there before. I'm sorry I rejected this before. Now I'm here. Now I realize how important it is. It was super good. And yeah, getting to Tsukasa's story later on, God dang, that guy is so cool. that lady's husband was so freaking cool. It was initially the whole story concept is that they were brought in by this couple, and they were trying to support him. Then at some point he just realized he just had the feeling that he was a leech, that he was staying with them and they were supporting him as he did his figure skating. They were even buying him shoes and everything. And they were supporting him, but he didn't succeed, so he felt like he was a leech. Like I wasn't doing enough for what you guys were putting into it. I was wasting your time, I was wasting your money. And this guy just the moment he finds out where he's at, he hunts him down like, where the hell did you go? Like this guy's such a bro. He was like supporting him this whole time. That whole family was so wholesome, like massive wholesome right there.
Even when they finally revealed that it was because he was going to be a he was basically
his sponsor. Yeah.
They were basically sponsoring, and he was like, yeah, when I make it big, I'll shout you guys out and everybody, and it.
It's like that wasn't the point.
It wasn't the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah. Good stuff. That whole thing was super good. Yeah, and him proving himself to Rio, that was really cool. Hikaru, I think Hikaru is a fantastic character to be a sort of a back of a better term. It's a rival character, but it's like a carrot on the stick. Like she's always trying to catch up to Hikaru. I like her character so far. Just the cast. The cast is just solid through and through. Even getting Mike's redemption was fantastic as well. So many fantastic points. Like this is through and through probably, I would have to think about it for a bit. It's probably easily my favorite sports show ever. Like I just love it. Yeah, I could probably attribute a little bit of that to the fact of like the whole smile that must be protected. It's different because it's cute girls. There's a boy, it's Rio. He's a dirtbag, but later on I like him. There's boys in the show too. But it's just one of those shows that just nails everything for me. It nails the drama, it nails the characters, it nails the sports, it nails the performances, the music, the voice acting. Even the dub is good, by the way. If you're a dub fan, please, it's a really good dub. Through and through, it's a phenomenal show, and I loved every minute of it, and I'm super happy it's getting a second season. This was one of those shows that when I was watching it, I was honestly terrified that it was going to be one of the ones that just doesn't get a second season. Like, here we go. This is going to be the one that I absolutely adore, and it doesn't get a second season, but it did. I'm double checking it, making sure that I didn't think wrong. But I'm super looking forward to the next season. Yeah, I think it did because there was a lot of people making speculations about the second season. Yeah, so please, ENGI, take your time. Just take your time. I'm just happy that it got an announcement. Just take your time. Just take your time. I think there was a director or somebody was calling out for people to spread the word because they need to work on staffing it. So anybody watching that's an animator,
shout out.
If we actually have any animators that are looking for work, ENGI, check with the director. I'm pumped for another season. Anything else on Medalist?
Mm-mm.
Super good show. Super good. Tasokare Hotel is our next one. Ran for 12 episodes. The Japanese title is Tasokare Hotel. Big shocker. Studio is PRA. Source is a video game. I think it was a visual novel. Genres are mystery and supernatural. And Tasokare Hotel opens up with the Tasokare Hotel. It's a hotel. No. It opens up with a girl named Neko Sukahara, and she found herself in this deserted area. Like nothing around her. She looks everywhere. It's just nothing but like a desert, almost like a desert. But then she looks over one direction, finding a hotel, the Tasokare Hotel. Walks in there, immediately is greeted by the manager. The manager is a flaming head. Like it's just a dude with a suit, and he's just got a flaming head. But yeah, she's quickly, given a room. She goes to her room, opens up the door, and that's when you basically find out what the whole thing is about Tasokare Hotel at this moment. And the idea that this is a hotel that people can go to when they're at the brink of death. So if you're in a coma, you get an accident, you're possibly dying. But this is a place you go to at the point in which you will discover if you are dead, if you are, just temporarily unconscious and that you're going to be able to live. And so what the whole point of this hotel is that you get a room, and the room itself forms to your memories. So there'll be objects in the room itself that sort of describe yourself. Typically what they'll do is they'll bring the person to the room. At that point, they will look around for any evidence about who they are. You'll get your name, and at that point, you'll get your appearance. And then you'll have to look through the objects until you figure out how you died or how you might be dying, and if you were actually dead. So with her, she ends up finding, I think she found her ID, and then she gets her, okay, that's my name. My name's Neko Sukahara. Suddenly, her face has appeared. They haven't really figured out exactly what happened to her at that point, but she decides to, over time, to start working at the hotel. And she just likes to kind of look into what each individual person, their mystery is about their identity and what happened to them. So she starts to work at the hotel, and so she'll guide other people in to their room, at which point she'll kind of help them to find out what their name is, regain their face. At that point, help them figure out how or if they're dead before they can finally check out. Until eventually she does discover what happened to her, because that's the whole thing. You have to figure out what's happened to you before you can walk back out the hotel. So yeah, just you have like individuals that'll come in, like this one guy. He's just wants people to come over to his room to help him play games. So they'll play like shogi or whatever. Eventually, she realized that he keeps getting phone calls, and she answers the call for him, and it's actually his mother calling about, you're late out, come home. I got some meatloaf made or whatever, and he doesn't want to answer the phone. Eventually, she'll discover that, oh yeah, what happened to the guy is that he was massively in debt. He went home to his mother to steal her bank book so that he can get more money. And then eventually, bad guys showed up and buried him alive. Eventually, he realizes it. Suddenly, he's buried alive inside of his hotel room. They have to dig him out. At that point, he realizes, oh, I'm not dead, but I'm close to dead. So they send him back out, and then he'll regain consciousness. And at that point, he might be able to survive or might not. It's an interesting concept. I was kind of mentioning early on that I almost felt like this is kind of a billiards death parade type of concept here, where it's like that whole, are you dead? What actually happened to you? Rediscovering who you are and what your last moments were. And yeah, in some cases, discovering, if they're a nasty person or not in some cases. So it's kind of getting in that whole realm. The big twist the story had, because early on, it's really her, as she's still trying to figure out if she's dead or how she died. She's, again, helping each of these individual guests that come in there and discover their identities and if they're dead. And it was kind of status quo for a little bit there. And then at some point, things kind of shifted a little bit more into the dire straits, where you have the inclusion of a guy that claimed early on that he was obviously a detective, because my room is full of, books about being detectives and solving crimes. And there's these little notes here that are obviously like crime scenes and stuff like that. And very quickly, she realizes that, no, these aren't notes for crime scenes. These are the people you murdered. You took pictures of the people you murdered. You are a murderer. And he realized it at some point, like, yeah, you figured me out. But he doesn't want to leave. Even though he's kind of discovered this stuff and who he is, he doesn't want to leave the place. And so they can't really kick him out. And so they just let him be there. And what happens is, through him, because he's realized that if he goes back, she might turn him in. Even though it's very rare that you can leave the hotel and remember who you are and remember what you see in the hotel. He doesn't want her to leave. And so he's trying to break the system. He's trying to prod and figure out how it works. Because there's this one ironclad rule that if you kill in the hotel, you'll go to hell. And he even tests this out with basically manipulating two individuals. And it was like that part that I really got hooked on this. Like, man, that was super dark. I'm sorry, that was a super dark story. And how he completely twists that situation. And it's one of those situations where somebody is manipulated and they do something they don't realize is extremely bad, and they're punished for it. So it's like without their knowing why it's wrong, they do it, and thus they're taken out. And it felt so wrong because essentially innocents were taken. And not just innocents were taken, innocents were erased. It's implied erased. And it felt wrong. And I'm like, I like the writer's willingness to do that. And I like that. And I liked how he sort of manipulates things going forward. There's a few more storylines that I found interesting. And it all develops to the final climactic moment, which I was very invested into. And that's what gets in my review. I enjoyed the show. Don't get me wrong. It's not the greatest looking show. It's interesting. I like it's an intriguing world. It's an intriguing concept. It's just similar to Death Parade. Very intriguing concept. Death Parade is, by the way, leaps and bounds a million times better than the show. Don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying it's similar to that in that feel that I got from it. And I liked it for that. There is one big, massive problem. Big, massive problem. It's one of those ones where it's like, I like the journey, but the ending soured it. The ending I hated because it's one of those situations. Slight spoilers here. If you plan on watching this show, slight spoilers here because you can read into what I'm about to say. It undoes things. I hate that because all my emotional investment in the show got, and it's not like it doesn't feel clever. It just feels like, oh, okay, so we're undoing everything. Like the moment they brought it up, I'm like, oh, I know what they're doing. They're undoing everything. I hate this. And it completely soured it. Like it's one of those, it just completely soured it. No, I mean, because I watched it on a weekly basis, it's not like it's that big of a deal because I still enjoyed the journey. It's just one of those things that at the end of the day, because it did that, I'm like, I feel like I was messed with. Like it feels bad. It almost feels like the writer doesn't want to commit. Like you didn't want to commit to this. You did this. Why won't you commit? Are you just? It seemed like you had guts back there because what you were doing was really raw and mean. And now here you're going, eh. And it's funny because it's. I'm gonna stop, Andrew. It's funny because it's not that it's intentionally saying I want to undo all of this. It's just you can piece it together. It technically undoes everything. And it's kind of annoying. So I hate that. I really did. I did hate that. So it was fine in the end. It's fine in the end. I did like Neko's character. I think Neko definitely does carry this quite a bit. She just kind of guys that she's just it goes with the name Neko. She's a mischievous little girl. She's mischievous. She's nosy. She's mischievous. She's very blunt, and she's not really afraid of kind of getting into situations. Even though in a lot of situations it feels like things are kind of dangerous, like extremely dangerous. She just does it. She's nosy. I like her. So that's Tasokare Hotel. It was good. It was good in the end. Hated the ending a lot. What else? Headhunted to Another World, from Salaryman to Big Four. It's probably one of the only ones that I never got back to that I kind of wish I did. Big Four. Headhunted to Another World, from Salaryman to Big Four. The Salaryman ga isekai ni itara shiten no ni natta hanashi. This one's straight on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Studio Geek Toys and Comptown. Source is a manga. Genres are adventure, comedy, fantasy. And this one opens up with Denosuke, and he is a salaryman, as the title would usually be. He was working for a company, and then they had him go overseas to help with this warehouse. They had another facility in another country, and then he went through all the trouble with like getting the workers back because all the workers like left. Like he worked really hard to get everybody back on board, got the factory working again, the warehouse working again, and eventually ends up getting isekai to another world before the Dark King that hires him to essentially try to help him rebuild his army, or at least bring in all the different tribes to back him up so they can go out and protect their lands. And so, yeah, very quickly he realizes I'm human. Everybody else doesn't seem to like the idea of him being a part of him because he's human. But he has to prove himself by showing his skills as a salaryman, a negotiator, somebody that has worked with a lot of different people, negotiating different deals, and negotiate with different tribes to get them on board. He has that it that nobody else of the big four have. So, what's your review? And is there anything good about this show besides Umandra? That was the only reason I want to watch the show.
Jinome and Sylphid and Olulu were pretty good. This was an interesting take on the isekai. I'm being honest. I really did like it in some respects as the idea of he wasn't necessarily the overpowered person. He was more just about making the deal, or not necessarily making the deal, but solidifying just different situations and solving them. However, the most of the situations were a little bit contrived, but they didn't take away from it. Like Andrew said, Olamandra really carried a lot of this in the first few episodes, Sylphid in the later episodes, Genome and Olulu in other ones, and then later on they add a Lolly because why not? So it is really carried by a lot of his.
Was the Lolly the Dark King?
No.
I was half expecting like the whole like suit opens up and you find out that it's this cackling little Lolly.
Annie. Would you be surprised?
The daughter.
No, he saved her. She was.
Oh no way!
I'm sorry, a forced servitude girl. So yeah, he had to save her, and then after he saved her, she of course joined his group. But no, it all said and done, if I'm going on visuals, it held it together somehow.
It was
barely.
Mostly stills. It was mostly
barely,
stills, but it kept it
barely. But all said and done, I did enjoy it for the most part. The little thing at the end, kind of cool. I kind of expected it to come up at some point, and it ultimately did. How he kind of deals with it and side skirts it, I thought was kind of fun. So yeah, all said and done, it was a generally enjoyable show. But yeah, middle of the road for me.
I don't think I was like I said before, I kind of wanted to get back to it. It was kind of an okay. I think my only beef that I had really was like it felt like it was too much of like, here's this big problem with this one tribe or this situation, and he's just kind of going, oh no, what are we gonna do with this whole situation? Then suddenly out of nowhere he goes into his inner mind where it's a bar in Japan, and every now and then some of the other characters will be there in like Japan like attire or whatever, like outfits, like business suits or something like that. And he's just sitting there eating something or taking a drink, and then suddenly goes, I got the deal ready. And then he solves the problem. It's like, is that your magical transformation? Is that you go into a bar and then go...
It was the Dark King's bar.
Yeah, he's always behind the counter making the food.
I'm near convinced it was him, but...
Probably. It's just something in...
I needed to go and look at the voicing between the two.
Anything else on the Big Four?
No. Like I said, generally enjoyable.
So what they're saying is that it's from Salaryman to like One Piece / Naruto, Bleach. What's the Big Four of shonen? What was it? It was One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, and anyways, dead joke. Sakamoto Days, our last one.
Dragon Ball. Did you say Dragon
No,
Ball?
I don't think they include that one in the Big Four because that was like way before those ones. The Big Four, I think, is for that generation. I don't know. Every time I see the list, it's different. Every time I see the list, it's different. Let's see what Google says before somebody gets mad. I want to put Google. Is it Big Four or is it Big Three? Is it the Big Four or the Big Three? I guess it is Big Four. The Big Four shonen is Dragon Ball. You got it. Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. I thought Dragon Ball was before that, so they didn't include it. Anyways, Sakamoto Days. So it's more important to talk about is Sakamoto Days, which was on Netflix, ran for 11 episodes. It's going to, of course, come back with a second part, I think, in summer. TMS Entertainment is the studio. Sources of manga. Genres are action, comedy. And this one opens up with Sakamoto, who is like the most well-renowned, like known, feared assassins out there. They basically say anybody else fears him because if they run into him, they're dead. And everybody that works with him respects him because he is the big dog. Like, he is the best of the best. So yeah, at some point, he's killing like crazy. And we find out later on is that, yes, at some point he also he goes to a convenience store, and the clerk behind the counter, which is Aoi, she, checks him out, and he immediately falls in love. And they go on dates together, and he's buying her presents, but he's always showing up with like blood on him or something like that. And she's obviously realizing, hey, he's doing a very dangerous job, a very deadly job. At some point, she instills upon him by doing this crazy action by jumping off this wall or off this building. Instills upon him that he needs to stop taking lives, because just like me, you didn't want to lose me, right? When I jumped off this building, she knew that she was going to save her life. You didn't want to lose me, right? That's what everybody else feels like whenever you take a life. So she basically tells him from now on, never take another life and do everything you can in order to basically help people instead. And so, yes, he gives up on being an assassin, which, like most stories like this, you don't stop being an assassin. Unless you're dead. Of course, he goes off and has a family with her, and they start working at that convenience store. They make their own convenience store, and then every now and then people show up to try to kill him. There's this massive bounty that's put out on his head. They want him dead. And so these different people show up. They try to kill him. He stops them in like weird ways, using weapons that are non-lethal, because one of the marriage laws is that he should never take a life. It's like this little rule book that literally says, never take a life. But yeah, eventually he realized that he can't keep ignoring the fact that there is this bounty on his head, so they have to go figure out what the bounty is. So that's basically the gist. He brings in Shin, who is this guy that has this clairvoyance ability. He's able to read minds. Every time he reads Sakamoto's mind, it's him thinking of ways that he's going to kill him, which feels real. They eventually help this Lou, who is... she's being hunted down by this other group because her parents was like this mafia group, and the parents died, and that she's trying to protect the family treasure or whatever they have stored away. But yeah, that's it. So my thoughts on this show. How far, did you get into it at all?
Yeah, I finished it.
Oh, you did? We'll give your thoughts so I can parch myself.
This was a pretty enjoyable show. I don't know that I'd say it's my top show, but it's definitely one of the top. I just thought it was just such a goofy, fun show. I think that, I heard at some point somebody put it in the same category as John Wick. I don't know that I'd call it John Wick, but it is fun, and I can see... it fits
the whole unconventional...
Yeah,
methods.
I was going to say, I can see the kind of similarities there, for sure. It's definitely just a kind of a goofy action rom. Just a lot of... improvised action is a lot of what's going on. So yeah, a lot of fun. The characters were great. I kind of got tired of seeing a lot of things from Shin's perspective, though. I think that for whatever reason, he became kind of almost the cameraman in a way. But it didn't deter from it that much. It just was kind of, let me follow some of the other characters a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of focus on his perspective because Sakamoto is not a very social person.
Yeah,
they establish at some point like there's a point which he actually speaks up and it shocks everybody because he just doesn't talk. The only reason that Shin, and again I think this is why they put it on his perspective so much, is that Shin is reading his mind, and so a lot of the communication that Sakamoto is doing is what Shin is reading from his mind. And so I guess that's why his perspective is so much. But yes, when you have the moments where, they're all spread throughout this facility or whatever, like when they got to Shin's story, I think that's why a lot of the focus later on this season was Shin, is because it's literally his story. They get into where he grew up in this whole medical facility that raised him up to be able to read minds and whatever, and getting into the guy that actually, gave them the procedure that gave him the ability to do that, and him ultimately accepting something that honestly isolates him. Everybody doesn't trust him in the facility because of that, but then eventually realizing they're not that bad. Anyways, I like this show early on. I found it to be
extremely fun. It gives me a lot of vibes of something like Spy Family, the idea of the assassin that is now, a dad, and they have family life and family. It's all about family. Really, really cute bringing Shin into it initially, and the idea that he was supposed to come to kill Sakamoto. He tries, gets his butt kicked, but then Sakamoto sits him down for dinner. And he gets that sense of like, oh, so this is why he left being an assassin. Shin always looked up to him. Why would you give up being an assassin? Oh, it's a cover. It's got to be a cover. He's not giving up. No, legit. This is what he wants. This is his family. This is what he left it for. And getting into him, basically joining him and being shown what family is, then bringing Lou in the picture. It's always about family. It's the idea of giving up violence and death and all that kind of stuff for family. Then going out to the music park and having fun there, and then, enjoying the amusement park in the midst of it. But at some point, I did feel like it got too actiony. Like it got too focused in on just being an action show. And I think that's where it kind of lost me quite a bit. Like, I still enjoyed it. It was still entertaining, and a lot of it has to do with the unconventional methods of which Sakamoto overcomes things. He always does the stupidest. That's like that whole scene with him and the patchwork guy, and he's in that one little tunnel, and suddenly he's got a weapon too. And then Sakamoto brings out his hand. And it's got it was a mechanical pencil, and there's the most random things in his pocket. And the guy's like, what are these dangerous weapons? What does he have? Oh, is it not dangerous weapons? Okay. And then suddenly he's just using them in
the stickers and the
stickers.
The card, something having to do with the card.
Yeah. It's just and he uses these things he just, and he just, it's the guy with the lead. And it's the most goofiest ways of taking down the enemy. And again, it's mostly just to kind of stun them, throw them off before he can get in there and just put a punch in or something like that. That was what was always clever to me, is how he does that kind of stuff. And again, how nonchalant he is about it. It's just so natural for him. He's just a ruthless guy that is so freaking good at this stuff, and he does it so naturally, and everybody else is just kind of thrown off by it. But at the same time, whenever it's not on Sakamoto, I just don't care. I mean, I'm with you on the idea of so much focus on Shin. It's not that Shin's a bad character,
no.
And his story was good. It's just he's not as fun as Sakamoto. Getting into even Lou, okay, it's fine, but it's not Sakamoto. The best moments of the show is Sakamoto. He carries the show. He's in the title. He's in the title. I did get a kick out of his relationship with obviously his wife and the kid, and trying to keep them protected and all that kind of stuff. And again, bringing people into the basically into the family with the convenience stores is always fun. The sniper guy and his whole story, and how they have that whole little paintball tournament thing was a lot of fun. There's just a lot of fun moments. The action's a lot of fun. It's just, I think when it gets away from that stuff, or gets too involved with just the whole assassinations and the other groups and the assassin groups, and they're hiring all these evil people that are going to definitely kill Sakamoto this time, it's just it's just not that interesting.
You sure you don't want to see the big old crusher guy against him?
The deer face guy.
I don't care about the deer face guy. Deer face guy was boring.
The guy that turned that poor McDonald's table into a ball.
Yeah, him, the crusher guy against Sakamoto. I think that'll be interesting, because two super strong guys against each other.
I'm just calling it already.
Sakamoto's gonna win.
The coward guy. Yeah, that too. The coward guy, he's gonna get so annoying.
You think so?
There was one guy that was
keeps crying over
super
everything.
Schizo. Yeah, he was super schizo. I'm like, that guy's gonna be the most annoying out of the. And he's gonna be the most ruthless out of all of them, but he's just gonna be so annoying. No, I want more of the chainsaw suitcase chick. She's got that big old freaking chainsaw thing that she's busts out.
Yeah.
I love that the guy gets all up in his face, and it's what a split second, just gone. Okay. That's her power, I guess. I didn't get to see it for very long, but I guess that's what she's got. We'll see if we can see more of her. Yeah, it's good. It's good overall. But again, I think its biggest flaw is that it's when it gets too wrapped up in the assassin stuff and not balancing the family stuff. Because I think it's at its gold when it's family and just protecting what you want to protect. Getting too mixed into organizations and stuff is where you kind of lose it. Anything else on that one?
Mm-mm.
What'd you think about? I guess a tough question. What'd you think about the visuals? There's a massive amount of honestly, understandable anger around the animation of this show.
I mean, for the most part, it was decent, but it did seem like some of it was kind of hidden behind, I guess, parlor tricks. It seemed like
they try to hide a lot of it.
Yeah,
action stills and stuff.
I mean, they did fine. I wasn't particularly bothered in as much with this one because I do know what you're referring to. A lot of the, like you were saying, action stills where somebody's running down a hallway and you can see the scam or the streak lines to show that they're running or something like that, or the two characters going towards each other. I think the
colliding of the Ferris wheel was the weirdest.
The
one,
Ferris wheel
because
was,
like how did they get up there? But yeah, it was like this. It was just, it literally looked like they were just sliding this PNG towards it, and the way that it kind of, because it was like a little bit of perspective there, like weird. Okay.
Spider.
And then it's like, and then the yeah, and the other biggest question was like, where did they even show where the the couple was, or did they? I think they hit the couple's carriage, right? Did it show them in there? It was like, did they kill them? Did they just obliterate them? I don't know. I had to go back and check. But yeah, it's nothing beats the spider though.
Yeah.
It was good though. I mean, it goes back to that whole thing where it's like, I understand people's frustration. It's just like the whole to beginning at the end situation that we're having right now. It's like people, they want the best for their properties they love, and it's understandable. At the same time, it's not that bad. Like Sakamoto Days is not that bad compared to a lot of other shows.
No.
Not that bad. Anyways, that's that. I think everybody just wants Dandan. They want Ufotable. They want everything to be animated like that. And it's just like, sadly, it's never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. That's it. We're done, Chris.
Are we?
Did we miss anything? I think we got everything.
So I can honestly start on the next season.
You could have started on that a long time ago. It just depends on when you got stuff done. It just depends on what you put the time into.
I got 2 shows in so far, and I think both of them were 2 episodes.
With the new season?
Yeah.
I thought you said you haven't started yet. You lied. You were lying for sympathy.
You did not hear me correctly.
You lied for sympathy.
I watched
Liar for sympathy.
Medalist, half an episode of Sakamoto Days, and I started on a couple of shows this season, but I didn't get very far.
But
I barely got started.
That's winter, guys. We're done. Again, like I said, we'll go into. I don't know if we will do starting next week. I mean, we'll have. I mean, we have Evil Lieutenant. It's gonna be Evil Lieutenant will be on its 5th episode, but that's the show that started super early with double episode.
I really wouldn't want to do anything this week as far as first impressions. That would be a very bad idea. I mean, I'll try to catch as many shows as possible, but not going to get very much. There's no way.
I mean, it's one of those situations where either way, we're going to have a lot of shows that I'm going to have to talk a lot about. So it's going to work either way. We'll figure it out. If we don't do it next week, we'll do the following week. But anyways, that's for next week. That's for the following weeks. Unfortunately, we don't have the music one to go with to branch in there. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but we'll get it figured out. But that's winter again. We thank you guys for watching or listening, depending on how you guys are consuming this. Again, as per usual, at otakuspirit.com is where all of our links are. Social links, ways to get a hold of us, ways to support us, all that stuff. We greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel. But yeah, until next time, till next week, I'll take care.
Os.